Hello, friends. Thank you for joining us on this week's edition of Kabbalah Explained Simply. Today, we're going to talk about the connection, if there is any, between Kabbalah and astrology. This is an interesting topic, right? Because is my destiny written in the stars? Does it already exist? Can I find out about it? Can I do anything about it? Is there anyone that can help me understand this? Today we're going to explore all aspects of this. Maybe it's a good idea to write down now, take a pen, open up a tab, write down what you think is the connection between Kabbalah and astrology. Don't write it in the chat, just write it to yourself. And I promise that this episode's going to blow your mind, because everyone has their own opinion on this. Some people think that Kabbalah has everything to do with astrology. Some people think Kabbalah has nothing to do with astrology. We'll find out. All right. So, Kabbalah and astrology. I think we're live on our channels now, so you'll be able to write in your questions if you have questions. And then at the end of this broadcast, we'll have a special Q&A session for members of KabU. You can sign up and get immediate access to that special Zoom, where we'll answer all your questions live. But in the meantime, write in any questions that you have in the chats there, and I'll try to get to them, try to be concise. So here we go. Kabbalah and astrology. Because Kabbalah is a science, and Kabbalah is very friendly to scientific research, physics, chemistry, anything that you can prove in a lab by meaningful experiments. Kabbalah respects the data that comes out of that. And Kabbalah is really the science of everything, meaning our brains have a hard time processing all of the sciences, chemistry, mathematics, physics, biology, processing them as one thing. And that's why if there is any science to astrology, I don't know if there is, let's see, that would also be included in Kabbalah. I don't know if it's a science at all. Let's check. And if you become a Kabbalist, first of all, if you're not going to watch until the end, because there's going to be a lot of twists and turns to our show today, if you're not going to watch till the end, the best thing to do is just turn it off now and go away thinking that there's no connection between Kabbalah and astrology. Because this term, astrology, is so confusing, so confused, and so loaded that we need to break it apart and see what we're even talking about here. And if you leave here thinking there's no connection between Kabbalah and astrology, you can study Kabbalah without knowing anything about astrology, and you can become a Kabbalist, and then you will attain all of the sciences. On the first spiritual degree, you attain understanding, full disclosure of all of the sciences, physics, chemistry, and like I said, maybe astrology if there's anything to it. You understand everything about this world, because this world is a black point out of the whole of reality, which has no volume, in which we're experiencing our whole life. And above this black point is something else, much, much more. Many degrees, many realities, worlds. And as soon as you rise just a little bit above this black point, you see everything clearly. The things that we think are so complex, the physics, the chemistry, becomes very simple, very straightforward. All of the history that ever happened and everything that will, it'll all be revealed to you if you become a Kabbalist. So we're going to look at astrology from the perspective of those who attained this total reality. And before we do that, let's look at just the dictionary definition of astrology, okay? It's the study of movements and relative positions of objects. It said celestial bodies, but I changed it to objects in space just because celestial bodies maybe has some mystical connotations. But it's the study of objects in space interpreted as having an influence on human affairs and the natural world. So that's what the definition is. Does science pay any credence to this? Does science, because like I said, Kabbalists respect science. Science can be incorrect. I have a family of scientists, so I know what goes on there and how there can be, different biases. But generally, if there are studies that are really serious and there's a few studies that we can compare with, Kabbalah respects those studies. So there were a couple of studies on astrology. Let's just have the full scope of things, all the different perspectives. And so in the 1980s, there was a study by Sean Carlson, and he found, I think he studied 40,000 or 4,000 people, and he found no statistically significant difference between the accuracy of astrological predictions and random guesses. Okay, this is interesting to us because we want to know if our destiny is written in the stars, and can anyone, including Kabbalists, tell us about this destiny? And can I do anything about this destiny? Or maybe I wouldn't want to know about this destiny. But is it written in the stars? This is what we want to know. And Sean Carlson and his team of researchers studied thousands of people and found no difference, statistically significant difference between the accuracy of the predictions and random guesses. The most respectable science journal, or one of them, is Nature. And in 2015, there was a study published in Nature that found no correlation between zodiac signs and personality traits. Okay, so science doesn't seem to believe that there is validity to astrology. Let's wait. Let's see. This is why they think people might still believe in astrology, even though scientists think it's nonsense. One is called the Forer effect. This is the psychological phenomenon in which people are more likely to believe in personality assessments that are vague and general. So any aspiring astrologers out there, could be a game plan for you. Astrology horoscopes often use vague and general language, which can make them seem more accurate than they actually are. Another thing is confirmation bias. This is a cognitive bias in which people are more likely to remember information that confirms their already existing beliefs. People who believe in astrology may be more likely to remember horoscopes that seem accurate and forget the horoscopes that don't seem to accurately describe them. And the other one is the placebo effect. We all know what that is. So this is what science thinks, but people nevertheless have throughout history paid credence to horoscopes and the zodiac signs. It's been in many cultures and many people still believe in them today. They're published in newspapers, they're published in online blogs. People look to them for guidance, for motivation. to know something about their future, right? To know if now is the right time to make a business move or to find love, and if there's some connection between me and another person because we were born under the same star sign. Where does all this come from? Where did these ideas come from? Well, here's an artifact from the 5th century in the land of Israel. And it seems to have it seems to have zodiac signs on it. Scholars are divided on whether this means that there is a connection between Judaism and astrological signs. But this may suggest that there's some connection, or there was some belief system in the connection between the two. And we know, if we study Kabbalah, we know that Judaism is an offshoot of Kabbalah. And whether this is, even if we didn't have this artifact, I could tell you that the astrological signs, these ideas of the connection between these systems of stars that are revolving around us and our destiny, it comes from Kabbalah, but people have no idea what the Kabbalists meant when they were talking about this. So let's kind of explore. Let's go. This is just an artifact, just for fun, for us to know that there is some ancient connection there between astrology and Kabbalah. And maybe it's correct, maybe it's not. Maybe this had nothing to do with Kabbalists. Maybe, this is the 5th century. So this is already a time when Kabbalists were totally in concealment. They weren't talking about Kabbalah. They weren't teaching Kabbalah, except one teacher to one student. So the fact that some people made some blanket with some star signs, they could have borrowed that from another culture. Who knows? There's also this book. It's about 1,000 years old, where in this book, they tried to make a connection between the star signs and the Hebrew calendar. And again, I don't know if there's really a connection, but somebody back then was drawing this connection between the star signs and the Hebrew calendar. Now, let's see and there is significance to this Hebrew calendar, by the way, and to the fact that there are different holidays at different times of the year. So that's aligned to the stars and to the planets. But we have to scrutinize what is actually the connection between these things, because it's not clear and it's not something that I can readily use. I can't go, okay, my star sign is Cancer, so therefore I know such and such will happen to me. It's absolutely not clear like that. And it's a question, too, if there is anybody who can help me know what's going to happen to me according to the stars. But we'll see. What does Kabbalah have to say about this? Let's start in the broadest terms. So here's what the Kabbalist Rambam said. Moses Maimonides. So he said, there is not a blade of grass below that doesn't have an angel above that strikes it and tells it grow. So what we can take from this is that there are forces above us. Perhaps they are the stars. Maybe they're higher than that. But there is a force above each and every particle of reality, including me right now, moving my hands right now, that is pushing me and compelling me. And it's pushing me in a very sneaky way, where I so much agree with what it's pushing me to do, that I don't distinguish between me and the force that's operating me. We're so one. We're not in disagreement. It's not like a parent telling a child to do their homework. It's like a child that is so excited to do their homework that the parent doesn't even get the words barely out of their mouth. The child is already doing it. This is the way I am in each and everything. When I take a sip of coffee. And so there is a force operating the whole of reality. Can we find out what this force is going to do with us? Because that might be helpful. It might cause me to make less mistakes, not get involved in some business or some stocks that are going to lose a lot of money, or a bad relationship. Can I know in advance? Is there anyone who can tell me? And I'm not even talking about the fact that there's a lot of charlatans. It's really obvious. There's lots of exposés on all of the charlatans who are just trying to make money. I'm talking about, are there any special people who can let me know what my destiny is going to be? Or is there a chart like the one that I showed you before with the zodiacs that can give me insights into when to play it safe, when to be more adventurous? Well, let's see what Kabbalists have to say about this. And don't think this is closing the case yet, but this is going to sound really definitive. So, don't take offense. But this is what the ancient Kabbalists had to say. One who consults an astrologer is a fool. This is from the Babylonian Talmud, and those who wrote that were Kabbalists. That means they had spiritual attainment. They attained the whole reality, not just this black point that we feel right now. And this is what they're telling me. One who consults an astrologer is a fool. Now, the truth is, Kabbalists back in these times used a special coded language. So, disclaimer, we don't exactly know what is being said here. Even though it says, because I don't know what a fool is, and I don't really know what an astrologer is. It could be code. Let's leave it. Here's something else that was said. The astrologers are like one who shoots arrows at random. That's another quote from the Babylonian Talmud. So the first one was about those who consult astrologers being fools. And this is about astrologers, that they're like one who shoots arrows at random. This would sit well with what science has said, with the studies that we said earlier, that there's no statistically relevant link between the stars and my destiny or my personality traits. But I don't know. Let's see. Here's the last one, and this is going to be really interesting and important later. Though it looks vague now, the astrologers are like one who looks in a mirror and sees a face that is not his own. Okay. Sees a face that is not his own. That sounds like I'm pretty confused, right? Okay, we'll see what this means later. The astrologers are like one who looks in a mirror and sees a face that is not his own. Now let's switch gears and let's go to another Kabbalist from a few hundred years ago called the Ramchal. He was a great Kabbalist. Let's see what he had to say. And his language is hard to understand. I'll try to break it apart. So, the influence of the stars on occurrences. All matters of material occurrences and their outcomes, after they have been prepared above, will draw downwards by means of the stars in the same form that they are designed to happen. So it sounds like he's saying everything is predestined. And everything from wherever it's coming is flowing through the entire system of reality down into my life experience. And it's all kind of predestined, but I feel like I'm doing things, making decisions, but maybe it's not so. Life, wealth, wisdom, and the like. So it may seem like I earned my destiny, I earned my money, I worked hard, and that's why I have what I have, or I didn't work hard, or I made some mistakes in some relationships with friends, with whoever, and that's why my life is the way it is. It seems like I made quite a few mistakes. We all have a lot of mistakes, so-called, that we make. It turns out that it was arranged for me to feel that I'm making these mistakes, but my life, wealth, wisdom, and the like were all pre-planned. They all came from above. Nothing is my fault. All are prepared above in their roots and are transmitted downwards in branches in a form that is fitting through the stars. This is accomplished through known divisions and unique combinations established for them and through well-known rotations. Okay. Sounds like, it's we're part of one system of reality. We're part of one system of reality, and that includes the still, the inanimate level of reality, which are the planets, the vegetative level on Earth, the animals, and human beings. And it's all a system, one system that's working on me. He goes on to say, and all the occurrences that happen to the material world according to their kinds are distributed among these stars, and all the material occurrences are bound under their influence according to their order, to be renewed by them according to what flows from the system through the connection that each individual is tied to. All right, so does astrology exist? Is it related to Kabbalah? Definitely not. Not the astrology that people think, where not the ordinary definition, but this definition is a bit different, and it says that yes, I am born under a certain constellation, but not just of stars, a constellation of the planets and the solar system and the animals that are around me and the people that are around me, the family, the generation that I'm born into. All of these things, my brother and sister, everything, my parents, all of these are a sort of constellation that includes the planets. But I don't know if there's something special about the planets. We can metaphorically say that I'm born under a certain sign, meaning a certain constellation. And if you want, we can look at these drawings between the stars, which are not really, they don't exactly look like these drawings. We can start drawing. It's kind of like we can look on a cloudy day up at the sky and we can say that one looks like an elephant and that one looks like a lion. Okay, so there's some kind of drawing up there, and we can say that since I was born under the Cancer constellation, that it's going to have some effect on me. But not just those stars are going to affect me, right? There isn't something special about the star constellation. Rather, everything in reality is influencing me, including all of the planets, even planets that I don't know about, right? further in the universe. There's a connection between me and them. What is that connection? How do we read these objects and their positions, including all the people in my life, the animals, the specific generation, the historical circumstances under which I was born? All of these influence me very powerfully. This is a very powerful, gigantic machine that next to it, I'm very feeble and powerless to do anything. Maybe. We'll see. But think about it, how big this system really is and how it's influencing us, and my powers compared to it. But maybe there's an entry point. Maybe there is a button that I can push where I actually have an influence on the reality that is more powerful than all of those planets put together, the solar systems, which are the gravity. Think of black holes, how powerful that is. Maybe there's a button that I can push that is more powerful than all of that. We'll see. So I want to now go to another Kabbalistic source. So there's a story called the Book of Esther. It's a book in the Bible. And because we're looking at, what is the connection between astrology and Kabbalah, right? And we're exploring all sides of this topic. And so in this Book of Esther, there's mention of someone named Haman. And this is what it says about Haman. It says, Haman was a great astrologer. This is actually a commentary on it from the Talmud. It said Haman was a great astrologer. So, unlike charlatans who don't actually have connection with the upper force or don't have the perception, because there is such a perception that can exist, by the way. There are those, I don't know if any exist today, but there is such a phenomenon where we have all of the abilities. We actually have infinite ability. We have unlimited. We don't know how unlimited our abilities are because our lives are so artificial. We live in cities, air conditioning 24 hours a day, phones, gadgets, everything, is so artificial that we've lost our connection with nature. But actually, we all used to have what would look to us now as magic. We used to all have the ability, just like animals, when there's a tsunami, there's this phenomenon where if a tsunami's coming in a couple of days, all of the animals wisely head to the top of the mountain. The humans, they run out to look at the beautiful wave. Every time there's a tsunami, people die. Why? Because we don't feel it. We don't feel this language with nature, where if we were in connection with it, we would see that you can, I don't want to say talk to the birds, but really you can have such a relationship with nature that it's, metaphorically speaking, it's whispering to you. All of nature talks. The trees, the birds, the animals, it's all talking. And there's a way that you can feel that this wave is coming, like all the animals do, because they're connected with nature. We're not. Now, there are people in history in whom this ability that we all have, we don't feel it, but we all have it, in whom this ability is pronounced, very much so. And they have the ability to tell, to some extent, what is going to happen in the future. Because as the Kabbalists told us, the future is all set. Everything is emanating down from the roots from the spiritual worlds. From these roots, they're coming down into ours. And if we opened up our senses a little bit, we'd be able to see all of the future. Now, let's see. So Haman was a great astrologer, right? He was one of those people that could tell the future. But it's not that simple. There's a little bit more to it. So this is also from the Ramchal. Knowledge of future events by the stars, he writes. Indeed, the influence of the stars is also limited according to what the supreme wisdom has decreed. As their propriety and some of their pathways are known by the order of perspectives. In other words, okay, which astrologers achieve. Yep, so there are people who can know the future. But, however, not all the details of their order are revealed in this way. So the astrologers will not grasp everything about future matters, and especially since their destinies can be nullified. That's very important, right? On the one hand, you can give me even the best astrologer in the world, one of these rare people that can know the future, not the charlatans, the real ones that can see the future, they can feel it. You can give me that greatest astrologer, but not all the details are going to be revealed, so they can make mistakes. They won't grasp everything. And the destinies can be nullified. So there can be something that is definitely going to happen to me in the future, but it's possible to change that. How can that be? How can those two things exist? Something's definitely going to happen to me in the future, but I can also change that. Okay, let's leave that for a second. Let's leave that for a second and say hi to all our friends. Larry from South Africa, Carl from Pittsburgh, Martin from the UK, Sharon from Connecticut to Florida, from Utah, Julie, friends from all over the world. Great to see you here. And let's continue. I just wanted to say hi to you all and kind of feel you there. Friends from California, from Ohio, all across the world, Venezuela. Awesome. Thank you for being here, friends. And so this is the question, right? How can our future be fixed? How can it be absolutely fixed? And yet it's possible to change it. These two things exist together. We're going to see how. And so now I want to read a famous quote from Abraham. This is quoted from the Midrash. Abraham said, "Am I under the control of the stars?" Like Ramchal was talking about. That maybe we're under the control of these constellations, zodiac signs, and so on. Or is there an upper force that's higher than all of them? If I'm under the control of the stars, then I have to worship them. It's a powerful force, and it controls me. I better be in its good graces. I need to appeal to it, maybe pray to it. If I'm under the control of the stars, then I have to worship them. But if there is an upper force above them, then the stars are mere signs. So if my boss has a bigger boss and I can appeal directly to the bigger boss, I should probably do so. Because he controls what's below him. And this is the analogy I would give. It's kind of like a puppet show. And don't think this is a joke or that I'm making fun of it, because each and every person in their lives is so much more like this example, engaged in this example, than we could ever imagine. That if I'm in this puppet show and my dad's behind it, when I'm a baby, he can actually fool me, right? And I'm so myopic when I'm a baby. If you have babies or kids, or you have them, you can relate to this. There's a phase where you don't even need an elaborate setup like this. You can literally just put two puppets in front of the baby, and it's as if it's really watching a show, like a real show. And there's no one behind it. Later on, maybe you need to get behind a concealment like this stage and make the puppets move, and then the baby will seriously be into it as though daddy's not behind it. And this is kind of the question of Abraham, like maybe the stars are powerful, but is somebody operating these puppets? And the stars here are just a stand-in for all of the things in our lives. My boss, my wife, my kids, my neighbors, the people who have existed throughout history as well. All of these things, are they themselves the forces that are operating me, or is there something behind it that is operating it, a higher force, and can I get to know it and have a relationship with it? And perhaps in this way, I discover that by appealing to the stars, maybe I'm appealing to some, mini boss when the real head honcho is operating all the strings. Maybe I'm talking to the wrong person. So this is the question: how can I get into contact with the highest force in reality? How is that possible? Because when we look at what happened to Haman, for example, in this allegory, it says all the signs that Haman saw were only lies. When he cast the lots and it fell on Nisan, a month in the Hebrew calendar, he thought that he would succeed because he sees the future. But it did not happen in Nisan. When he saw that he would not succeed in Nisan, he thought that he would succeed in Iyar, another month. When he saw that he would not succeed then, he thought he would succeed in Sivan. He keeps thinking he's going to succeed. He can't understand how he's got these predictions, and he's a brilliant astrologer, and yet he's not succeeding. Why? He sees the future. He has access to that book of the future that each of us would love to have about our lives, that we could open this book and know what's going to happen to us, and then try to not have bad things happen to us and have more good things happen to us. So what's going on here? Well, this is what Ramchal says later on in the book we were just reading. He says, the subjugation of the lower beings to the influence of the stars and its cancellation for Israel. Okay. Behold, all human beings are subject to this order, and they are also renewed according to what is drawn for them from the arrangement. So our whole destiny is predefined. However, it is already possible for the zodiacal influence to be nullified by a strong force from above. Based on this, they said there is no mazal, luck, or constellation for Israel, because the decree of the Holy One, blessed be he, prevails, and his influence overcomes the influence embedded in the constellations. The destiny will be according to the higher influence and not according to the influence of the constellations. So there's a saying in Kabbalah that Israel is above the stars and the signs. And this is very important to understand, and we need to understand what is Israel. Because this is the only way that I could be above that which is already going to happen to me. Maybe there are things that I would consider to be good things. Maybe they're horrible things. But I want to go above all of this to a good future. I want to ensure that every day is going to be better than the last. How can I do this? Well, in this case, I need to be that thing called Israel. And Israel doesn't mean Jewish people, and it doesn't mean it's a code word. It doesn't mean the country of Israel. It's a code word that Kabbalists use because it means Yashar Kel, straight to the Creator. And if I'm lucky, I'm born with something called the point in the heart. And this point in the heart is something that is in everybody, but it's revealed, it's covered in most people by other desires. Other desires cover it up, and that's why I don't feel this point in the heart. This point in the heart causes me to long for something that I don't know what it is. I can't find a solution for it in this world. If I want vanilla ice cream, I know I can pop over to 7-Eleven and grab that. If I want to become a doctor, I know the things I would need to do to get that. Maybe they're inaccessible to me, but I know kind of what to do. There's an example in this world. For the point in the heart, it's a longing for something that I don't know what it is. What am I yearning for? And so I probably search for all kinds of different things. I might search religion. I might research science, like our teacher, Dr. Michael Lightman. He was like a scientist. He was going to solve all the problems of the world through science. It could be that I'm drawn to certain mysticisms. It could be that I'm drawn to certain versions of Kabbalah, so-called Kabbalah, that aren't the real Kabbalah, because there's really one authentic Kabbalah that all those who attain the spiritual world feel. They feel it all the same, like those who have come to the same city of London. Everyone sees the same thing. And if I have this point in the heart, I'm ineluctably drawn towards those who can pass on that method to me. I feel it. Just like when you open up an email and you feel, before you even read it, you feel like, oh, this is like an angry email that somebody has written to me. Similarly, the point in the heart feels the truth in the authentic wisdom of Kabbalah. Feels this truth. And when it comes to the wisdom of Kabbalah, it still doesn't have satiation, but it knows that it has found the place through which it can discover what it is longing for. Now, if you're lucky enough to have this, it means that your point in the heart didn't get covered up by the ability to just watch soccer every weekend and be satisfied with that. It didn't get covered up by various business interests. You can do all that, watch soccer and do business, but you have this greater longing. And this is the initial point with which it's possible to get control of our destiny. Because our destiny is it's all set up for us. Everything's going to happen. But what is possible to do about it? It's only if I realize this point in the heart. And with this, I discover a connection with the upper force, that one which Abraham said was higher than the stars. And again, stars here is just a metaphor. There's nothing special about the stars or the astrological signs in particular, because they're not more special than all of the other people and forces that are also around me, powerfully influencing me with their thoughts, with their desires. All those are constellations. And yes, it does matter when I was born and, what these constellations were, not just the stars, but all of the other things that are around me. It does matter. There's a certain system that imprints me and influences how I'm going to be, right? So that's one perspective. And there's another totally different perspective that is seemingly incompatible with this, but is the real twist and the really important thing here. So let's go back to our quote from before, because it's going to give us the secret here. It's going to give us the Okay, so remember this one that we looked at from the Talmud, and this was written by Kabbalists, and we didn't know what it meant. It said, we thought maybe they're just insulting astrologers and telling people, don't go see astrologers, they're charlatans, they're dumb. Let's see though. It says, the astrologers are like one who looks in a mirror and sees a face that is not his own. So you see, you have this guy looking up at the sky, and maybe he's trying to read the stars and tell what his destiny is going to be, right? Or maybe he consults somebody and has them do it for him. Well, what's in the stars when I look up at the stars is actually a mirror. It's a mirror of my own properties. These are my qualities. They're not up in the stars. They're actually inside of me. And the entire universe, I can explore it by exploring my own qualities. So only in this sense is there an association between Kabbalah and what's going on with these objects in the sky. And we extended the constellations of planets to include the constellations of vegetables, trees, animals, human beings, everything that's surrounding me. The connection between these things and me is that they're actually a reflection of what's going on inside of me. And that's why and there is an order to that, right? There's an order. There's a plan. There is, you can put it on a calendar. If you knew how to read it, you could tell that during this time of year, there would be certain phenomena that are going on inside of me. And during another time of year, there's other phenomena. And if I continue my life the way that I'm going, meaning without a connection with that force that governs all of it, that's behind the reality, the dad operating the puppet show, then everything is predestined. And there are special people that could tell me what's going to happen in my future. And if I knew how to read it, I don't know how to read it. But if I knew how to read it, I could also tell what kind of constellation I was born under, including all of the reality, this constellation that includes everything, and what that means for me. It could be possible to tell. But the reason why I said in the beginning that the most accurate, best thing to leave with is that there's no connection between Kabbalah and astrology. That's the most accurate thing, is because you dealing with those things, dealing with the astrology and trying to tell something about my life according to the zodiac signs is kind of like trying to tell something about the designer of a computer by looking at what's on my screen right now, when behind this screen is code and then machine language and then some designer's mind that designed everything. In other words, I'm not dealing with the top boss, right? If I appeal to the stars, if I'm looking there, if I'm focused on that, I need to focus on something higher than that, because those control my life, including, again, I keep having to repeat, I'm including all of the people, all of the stars, everything around me. Those all control my life in a systematic, mechanistic, predictable way. And I can be above all of that. In other words, I can go to Haman, the greatest astrologer of all time, can go to Haman and he can predict my future. And yes, that will be all that's set up for me. Tomorrow, I'm supposed to fall off of a cliff or whatever it is. I can be above the destiny that is outlined for me. How do I do this? This is the study of the wisdom of Kabbalah. This is, and usually people aren't even referring, if I'm referring to the stars, that's at least an upper force. That's something above me. You know, people refer to the universe, stuff like that. Most people aren't even doing that. They're thinking my boss is controlling me. My neighbors, my, social groups, the politicians, they're controlling me. Not realizing that there is an upper force against which all of these things are powerful. This is powerless. This is why the Kabbalists write that Israel, those who have the point in the heart, are above the stars and the signs. How do I do this? I need to develop this point in the heart more and more to the extent that I'm going to start living inside of this point. I'm not going to just take what's on the screen now as a philosophy. It's not just a theory. Kabbalah is not a bunch of interesting knowledge points that now I know that it's that way. Okay, the whole universe is a reflection of me. No, this is telling us in advance what we're going to discover, what we're going to attain for ourselves in a full spiritual five senses. You're going to attain it. Above this black point in which we all exist, the darkest place in all of reality, this black point, if you ascend just above it, you attain the upper force that is controlling everything. And then you have a relationship. When you like to have a relationship with the biggest boss, you actually have a relationship with this force that is operating your whole destiny, and you start to see how you can wield control over it. So how we can do this? Well, So how we can do this is, first of all, by joining our courses. And because every time I'm watching TV, I'm watching Netflix. Every time I'm watching Netflix or anything, I'm under its influence. And whatever it is in this world is influencing me with the desires of this world. It's not bad. That's just the way it is. The more that I'm influenced by Kabbalistic sources, I'm getting influenced by those who attained that upper world, where that world of roots, where the Kabbalists wrote that everything in my reality is defined by these roots. And every time I'm involved in it, I'm growing this point in the heart. Right now, this point in the heart has no volume. Like I said, it's a desire. I don't know how to fulfill it. It's not vanilla ice cream. It's not beer. It's not soccer. I don't know how to fulfill it. It's a point. If I expand this point, I discover in it that it's actually not a point. It's a whole world. That I'm right now inside of a black point that I think is a huge, vast universe filled with all of those constellations. If I start expanding my point in the heart, I discover an additional world that's just as tangible as this one, right? I'm feeling this world in the vessel that I have. This is a new vessel in which I can feel the spiritual reality. How can we do this? Well, we have a great opportunity coming up. It's called the 3-Day Leap. It's the annual North American Kabbalah Retreat. You can get your tickets now at retreat.kabbalinconnect.com. It's going to be an amazing experience out in nature. And it's really a chance to be immersed in this special environment of friendly people like yourselves that are looking for spirituality, influencing each other, motivating each other to reach the goal, spending time just detached from our daily artificial lives. Like I said, the reason we are so limited and we don't feel our infinite potential is because our lives are so artificial, right? And so it's good to get out in nature, detach from all of our normal stuff, and spend a weekend focused on reaching really what is the goal of our lives. So I hope to see you all there. You can get tickets, special price tickets, early bird tickets right now, and it's going to be amazing. Like I said, we're about to have a special Q&A session, a live Q&A session on the Zoom for KabU students. If you sign up now at kabbalinconnect.com, you'll get an email with an invitation. Hope to see you all there. It's been very interesting, and thanks for joining us. See you next time, friends.